Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. So on this episode, we're going to continue with the GS6-37DZ swap on our E36 convertible drift car. So in this episode, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of the swap itself. So we're actually going to go through and prep the gearbox. That's the old get drag. Going to be throwing that one in the bin. And we're going to be prepping the GS6 to go back in the car. So we're going to be doing the input shaft adapter, all that jazz, preparing it to go back in the car, stripping off some of the parts that we don't need. And we're also going to get cracking on the car itself. So prepping the maintenance and stuff that we're going to do on the engine, just while we have it out of the car, a good opportunity to do so. And we're also going to look at the drive shaft as well. Going to just measure it up, compare it to the old drive shaft, and we'll go from there. As always, guys, if you've got any questions, leave them for me in the comments. I'll do my best to respond to everyone. And yeah, if you do appreciate the content, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. Really helps the channel out heaps, so thanks for doing that. But yeah, enough chit chat, let's get into it. So the first thing we're gonna do is measure the gearboxes. Obviously there's quite a big size difference with the gearboxes, so the tail shaft will have to be shorter, but we're not entirely sure because we're not using the same front section. Basically, what I'm going to do is get a block of wood, measure across there, and try to just get the length from the bell housing to the output shaft, or the flange of the output shaft. So we're looking at, let's say 511. And we've got 642. We'll go ahead and measure the drive shafts now, and then we'll be able to get more information on that and how much we have to change the drive shaft by. So I'm actually going to try to make a drawing. So for the get drag, we had it being 511 millimeters, so 511, and for the GS6, we're going to go with 642. And then, for the Gbo on the get drag, we had 32, and for the Guibo on the GS6, we had 35. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the different tail shafts to work out how much we're going to need to take off this one. I've added the lengths there, so 600 on the get drag section and 436. So, excuse me, I've had to do a bit of maths here. So basically we've got the total length here, TL, which is the box, so 511 plus 32 plus 600, so that's 1143 millimeters. Essentially that is a distance from the bell housing of the engine to the middle of the drive shaft at the start of the center support bearing. Essentially, if we just get that length, so TL, and take away the size of the gearbox, the GS6 gearbox, and the bigger Guibo, that's going to tell us what size we need the tail shaft to be. So that's going to tell us what T2 is, and that's going to end up being 466 millimeters. We need T2 to be this much, and the tail shaft that we have now, so the auto tail shaft, is 436 millimeters, which means we need to get it extended by 30 millimeters. Hopefully that is right. I'm going to just double check with Pete because he's done this before, and we should be on the money. Also, just a quick tip, when you go to the drive shaft shop, make sure you bring everything that you need with the drive shaft. So I'm going to bring the rear section, even though that we don't need to replace it, and the Guibo bolts, just because with the balancing of the drive shaft, you want the drive shaft to have everything that's going to have on it when it's in the car. Otherwise, there's no point in balancing it because you're going to be adding weight to it. So yeah, we're going to just take everything to the shop, get them to do it, and then hopefully we'll have a new tail shaft. It'll be a lot quicker than getting the engine in the car and then measuring it when we have to wait another week. So that's why we're doing it this way. All right, so we've got the engine out now. What we're going to get cracking on is the sump. So we're going to be popping the sump off. Also, one thing I want to address is there are little O-rings just in there. You can see it there. Pretty much they like to go bad, and then you can have oil leaking out as well. There is a bit of oil leakage here. I'm not sure where it's sort of coming from. It seems like it's coming from above here, like these banjo bolts, or even further up. So yeah, pretty much I was going to try to do it without having to pull the oil filter housing off, but it looks like I'm just going to have to anyway. Not the end of the world, it's pretty easy to do. I'm just going to pop the alternator off, and then we should get access to all the bolts and just pop it off. That way we can do it on the bench, and it's going to be a lot easier. So yeah, we're going to pop that off first, and then we'll do the sump later. So yeah, we'll get cracking on popping the oil filter housing off. we got the sump off, pretty easy. I think this is the way to go. Obviously there's just oil everywhere because it's still dripping out of the pickup there. Just getting a closer look at how sus that Vanos feed line looks. I think I'm just going to replace it because it looks like it's leaking just at the top where the compression fitting is. So now we're just going to tackle the oil filter housing. So we've just got it on the bench now. The O-rings that we got to replace are right here. We only need to replace 2, we've just got a couple spares. But the block off points here and here, the little plugs there's a little split ring just inside there if you can see it. And pretty much you just pop that out and replace the O-ring there. They like to go bad. I don't believe that's the issue that we're having here. I think just where the banjo is here, it looks like it's sort of leaking down from there. So I think that's our issue, is the Vanos line is leaking. But I'm just gonna replace these anyway, just because they are prone to failure. And yeah, just might as well do it while we're here. But yeah, we'll just smash this out now, chuck it on time lapse, and yeah, we'll just bust it out. Okay, so I've just managed to do this one. Went pretty well, only managed to stab myself in the finger once. Yeah, here's the old O-ring. You can tell it's definitely a little bit flat and definitely not as springy as a new one. So good thing that we're replacing them. Yeah, so essentially we've just reset the plug in there. So now I'll just go and smash out this other one. All right, so that job is all done. All new O-rings in the plugs there. So hopefully it's not gonna be any leaks for the next 20 years. Yeah, so the other O-ring, yeah, you can tell it's definitely squared off. So now I do have 2 spares. The O-rings that you need are a -118. If my memory serves me correct, that's what the forum said. Just got those and they look like they're the right fit. So now I got 2 spares. If you do want some of these, drop me a DM on Instagram, and if you need some of these, I'll send them to you for free anywhere in Australia. Obviously I'm gonna pay for international shipping, but yeah, if you're in Australia and doing a similar job, just drop me a DM and I'll send you these for free. So yeah, so now we're just going to move on to the next job, which is going to be the Vanos line. So we're actually gonna be pulling the Vanos line off this engine here. This is our spare M54 B22. You can see the Vanos line there. This one doesn't look too leaking, but we'll soon find out. Not sure if this line is exactly the same as the one we're pulling off. I checked the part numbers and they do not match, but it might be the same. We'll just have to see. So it seems like the lines are pretty similar. The length is pretty much dead on. That's the M50 line. This is the M54 line. Also, this fitting swivels on the M51, which I don't know if that should happen. It's swiveling like right at the coupling joint. Maybe that's where it's busted. The angle here is also slightly different, but I think it should be okay. So we got the oil filter housing back on. That line actually fitted really nicely. It's pretty much, doesn't look like there's any issues with clearance or anything like that. Plenty of clearance around the back here. So I think she's all good to go. We've also gone ahead and chucked a new water pump pulley on. I'll show you the old one. Last time we pulled the engine, the pulley got a bit torn up here on the engine crane. I think that's the main damage there. Yeah, so just pretty much mangled that lip a little bit, which isn't ideal. But yeah, so can't shoot up a little bit of the side of the belt. The belt still seems to be okay, but yeah, I just didn't want to get any worse or potentially throw the belt off. So I've just slapped on a new one. Unfortunately, the pulleys are M50 specific, so I couldn't use the pulley off that one. So I've just got a spare. So yeah, we'll keep cracking on. All right, so it's a new day now. I'm just gonna do the sump. So we've got it upside down on the engine stand. You can see here, got our nice little chain tensioner there. Everything looks to be pretty good. Just giving the engine a bit of a visual inspection from here. Everything looks okay. So yeah, we've just cleaned the mating surface on the engine there, just with brake cleaner. And I've also got the old sump gasket. Hopefully that should be all good. It's only about 12 months old, so didn't really want to have to buy another one. And we're just going to use plenty of sealant, and that should do the trick. So the sealant that we're going to use is actually Toyota Black. I've had really good experience with it in the past. It is like $58, I think I paid a tube, which is pretty expensive. but all the times I've used it, it's been pretty good. And yeah, we're just going to do the entire sump surface. I know you're only supposed to do it on the mating points here and here and here and here. I just want to make sure that this engine is going to be completely sealed, because I really hate pulling the sump off when it's in the car. It's a pain in the ass. You got to drop the subframe and stuff like that. Really don't want to have to do that again. So yeah, we're just going to put Toyota Black on the sump and on the engine block, and then obviously have the sump gasket between them, and hopefully that'll be all good for no leaks. But yeah. Alright, so sump is back on. Probably used a bit too much sealant. Hopefully it doesn't sort of go into the engine and then snap off and gum up the oil pickup. But fingers crossed we're all good. It should be okay. I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty confident that that is definitely not going to leak, so I won't have to pop the sump off anytime soon, which is excellent. The next thing we're actually going to tackle is I'm going to take the AC pulley off the harmonic balancer. So yeah, just replace the bolts in there. I've got shorter ones. I'm just going to undo this pulley and then just put the shorter bolts in just to hold the harmonic balancer to the hub. And then yeah, we'll shave a little bit of rotating mass since we've deleted AC. That's all done. You can see there we've got nice new hardware there, and we've basically just deleted this pulley. It doesn't really weigh much, probably only a couple 100 grams if that, but hey, every little bit counts. If you are doing this at home, basically these are the bolts we used. They're just M8 by 11, I believe. So just going to move on to prepping the gearbox now. For starters, we're going to get rid of the old gearbox mounts. They look pretty old, and we've got pulley ones in there at the moment, which we're going to swap over. We're also going to switch over the selector end joint, whatever you want to call it. So this one is, you can tell there's a lot less slop there. We're also going to fill it up with oil. Bit of a debate online, or it's a bit hard to find what oil to use. We end up going with Penrite 75W90. I've read that you can run either 75W80 or 75W90. Just sort of on the European sites. I figured we'd probably go with the 90, a little bit thicker, just because obviously in Australia it's a little bit hotter. Should be good enough for what we're doing. Another thing I want to do is sort of hose the transmission down a little bit as well. It's pretty dirty, so we'll clean her up, and yeah, hopefully she'll be looking good as new and ready to go back on the engine and back in the car. All right, here she is, all cleaned up. Way nicer, way better. I can actually see if it's leaking. I'm now just gonna swap the bushing thing over. I'm just gonna time lapse it. It is a little bit finicky. This pin is kind of a bit of a pain to get out, but we'll just smash it out now. So we've just replaced the shifter bushing. It's really tight, pretty much no play there, which is good. We'll also remove the old clutch slave. We don't need that old plastic slave. We have one in the car already. Should just bolt on there, no dramas, once we put the box in the car. So now we'll just fill the box up with oil, and we'll also put the input shaft extender on. Alright, so lesson learned, don't assume things. I figured because the box was actually imported and obviously shipped, it wouldn't have any oil in it. That was wrong. It obviously had oil in it, and it just went everywhere, so is what it is. So just empty that out now. We're just going to fill it. So side note, just picked up this awesome Nuke Performance fuel injector rail. So this is not for this car. It's actually going to go on the boosted E36. So yeah, we've also got Bosch 1000cc injectors, which should be plenty of flow to be able to push some power on E85. Also got a Turbo Smart fuel pressure regulator. So super stoked, super keen to chuck this on the car. And yeah, so obviously get subscribed for that if you do want to see more content of the E46. And yeah, we're going to build the mode on that one soon. So yeah, get keen. All right, so the gearbox is all filled up with oil now. Took about 1.6 liters. Not sure how much that is in quarts or whatever. But yeah, we're just gonna move on to the final thing that I wanna do today is just to hit out the stainless steel pivot bushing. You can see it there. Doing this today, that way I can chuck it in the freezer overnight. So then when I go to put it in this gearbox, it's all good to go. Not going to give us any dramas or anything like that. I believe, oh look, came with the clip. So you can see that one's got the plastic one in there. It's almost rounded off as well. So once I get them off, I'll be able to show you the comparison. But yeah, I'll just smash this out now and yeah, get it off. All right, so here's a comparison. This is the exact reason why you want to change this out. You can tell the plastic one is definitely ground down a lot flatter. The actual tip looks way flatter than what the stainless steel one. It's still got quite a point to it. So this is exactly why you want to change this and upgrade it to a stainless steel one while you're there. You can also get brass ones. I don't think that's actually the way to go. I think brass is a lot softer, so it'll pretty much have the same issue. Stainless steel is definitely the way to go. This is held up to multiple clutch kicks, multiple drift events, and it's fine. So yeah, now we'll just pop this in the freezer and then we'll be able to put it back in when it's nice and cold and it'll go in a lot easier. Almost in already. You can hear the sound sort of changed. I think that means it's in, but we'll just double check. Fairly confident that is seated now. New clutch pivot pin. Now we can chuck the fork on. This is a little clip. It just goes along the outside of that. I will also just grease that pivot pin just in there, make sure it's got enough grease. Now I'm just going to chuck on the input shaft adapter. So I'm just going to double check the clearance on the pilot bearing. So seems to be fitting rather nicely. So we'll just grab some red Loctite and chuck it on the threads there. Maybe a bit too much. There's one done. And you want these tight, but obviously you don't want them too tight to the point where you're going to snap the grub screw in there. Alright, that's pretty much it. Just going to move on to staking the threads. So I'm just going to get a flathead screwdriver and basically punch the threads in so it's not going to come out. Sweet. I think she's pretty much done. All right, so the next step is just going to be to get the engine off the stand, and then we're going to be changing obviously putting the flywheel on, changing the pilot bearing, and then yeah, should be all good to go. So we've got the engine just on some tires to hold it in position. Obviously, just a hot tip is make sure if you do chuck it on tires, you have it so that the flange where the gearbox obviously attaches to is out, so you can get the gearbox on. Don't want the tire getting in the way. So the first thing that we're going to tackle is the pilot bearing. This bad boy, we've got to change it out. The one that we have is slightly different diameter. What you want to do is you want to get your bread and essentially you want to take the cross off because we don't want the cross. Find white bread works the best. And you just want to scrunch it up into a ball. Kind of like making damper, I guess. And you pretty much just want to put it into the hole there. Obviously slowly. I've got the previous clutch alignment tool just in there to really push it in there. I reckon maybe 3 slices, I reckon. Hey, easy peasy. Now I've just got a bunch of bread in the flywheel. Look at that, that is all bread. That's so funny. So yeah, you can see in there, there's a little lip just inside there. You want to hit the pilot bearing into there until it obviously matches up with there, and then you're good to go. So yeah, here's the new bushing bearing. I'm gonna get it mixed up so many times in this video. I've found a 24mm socket is actually the perfect diameter to go in. So we'll just start that bad boy in there, and then I'll slowly hit it in until it bottoms out. In here, it's pretty much home. I've just gone ahead and cleaned up the bolts just because they have the red Loctite on them from previously being used. I'm not sure if you should reuse the bolts. I'm going to reuse them anyway. It should be fine. But yeah, do so at your own risk. So yep, flywheel's all torqued down. Just a good little trick is just using a shifter there to lock in there. Obviously make sure you screw that bolt in so it's not going to mangle up the threads, but yeah, this pretty much locks the flywheel in so you don't need to hold the crank. So yeah, now we'll just move on to doing the pressure plate. So there is a bit of a debate online, and you can have issues where the pressure plate can go the wrong way around. So I put this one in the way it came, so the knob, or the outer bit, should be going into the flywheel like so. So this part needs to go into the flywheel. So yeah, we'll chuck that on. We don't actually have a clutch alignment tool, so we're just going to use a flathead screwdriver and hopefully just do it by eye, and we should be all good to go. Alright, so I've just gone to put the throwout bearing on, and as it turns out, we have the wrong throwout bearing. So this is not going to work for our application. It's too small, it won't go onto the shaft there. That's my bad. Probably need to get a DZ specific throwout bearing. So that is really annoying. I really wanted to get this engine in today, and I really wanted to get the car to a event next weekend, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Look, it is what it is. What are you going to do? Yeah, we'll just order one of these and pop it on hold until that comes. Hopefully it'll be about a week or two. All right, so it's a new day now. We actually managed to get a new throwout bearing and associated clutch fork from Matt Gresham yesterday. He was actually just in the shop on the weekend and he had these in stock, which is amazing. So we're back on track with the project. Basically, I'll chuck the part number for this but it's basically one unit. Apparently it's for the 6-speed, so you need this throwout bearing and this clutch fork, otherwise the 5-speed E36 one will not work. But yeah, you can see it sort of slides in like so. You can turn this 90 degrees, so you'll have that ridge there sitting on there, so that'll push it out further, and that'll adjust the clutch feel. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the gearbox on the engine, and then we'll move the engine really close. We'll be able to get the slave out because it's pretty long, pop it in the gearbox while it's still out of the car, and then we'll just check the pedal feel, make sure the bite point's at a point that I'm happy with, and we don't need to change it. Should be good to go, and then we'll chuck the engine back in. Going to attempt to put the box on the engine. It's going to be a bit tricky, so I'll just chuck it on time lapse. So yeah, hopefully we've lined up that clutch disc in there straight. We'll see how we go. Gearbox is on. That was actually surprisingly a lot easier than I thought. We pretty much were basically on the alignment, which is amazing. So that was really good to see. I just checked the bite point. I just got a mate to spin the output shaft while I was in the passenger seat or in the driver's seat, just seeing where the bite point was on the clutch. I'm pretty happy where it is at. It's pretty much in the middle of the range, which is pretty good. Clutch feels a little bit heavier, but it is what it is. Maybe it's something to do with the actual disc being different or the clutch fork being a different dimension. But yeah, happy with where it's at now. Just going to continue with chucking the engine back into the car. Alright, so engine is in. Bit of a struggle doing it by myself, but we got it done. You can see it's in position now. Looks good. I've just put a jack stand in the rear there, just holding the gearbox in because we don't have the cross member just quite yet. Just done up the engine mounts there and in there, just dummied up where the wiring's gonna go. Obviously we just got to basically plug in all the connectors there, plug in the throttle, plug in the power steering, all that jazz. I'm gonna refill the power steering because that was low, it leaked a little bit. Grounds, and then yeah, pretty much just put the front end back on. It should be good to give her a first start. So that's where we're gonna leave it in this video. Obviously a bit of a bummer with the throwout bearing and the clutch fork, but we're able to get that replacement one super quickly. So really grateful for that one. And we're able to get the engine back in the car, which is amazing. So yeah, if you got any value out of the video, don't forget to chuck it a like, chuck it a subscribe. It's literally free. Just hit that little button. What are you waiting for? But yeah, thanks for doing that, guys. In the next episode, we're gonna be continuing to slave away on the card, hopefully get it ready for an event next weekend. It's Euro Day at Lakeside. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you on the next one. Hopefully we get it done for Euro Day in literally less than a week. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but we can do it. Catch you later. Bye.